I am really excited to share today's video because we are going to be making 3 essential fall comfort foods. So these are the foods that if fall goes by and I haven't made them, then I'm going to be really sad. So we're going to start by making a healthier snack mix. So I've got a bunch of tips and tricks and healthier ingredients that you can use to make one of our all-time favorite and classic snack mixes. Then we have a really delicious, kind of like a Sunday supper inspired dish. This is something we would love to have after church on a Sunday when we want something delicious simmering away on the stove for dinner. This is one of those dishes we like to make, and I'm actually going to be using a pumpkin to make it, which normally I don't always love kind of the savory things that are made with pumpkin, but trust me on this one, it is so good. My family is going to be begging for it all fall because it really is that good. And then lastly, we're going to make a sheet pan meal because around the holidays things start to get busier, so having those sheet pan meals you can make any time of week is just a necessity. And I'm also going to share a few things that I picked up from Thrive Market because I want to make this healthier snack mix, but I need certain ingredients to make it healthier, and it can be hard to find some of these items in stores. So I placed a big old Thrive Market order. And if you haven't heard of Thrive Market, they're an online membership-based grocery store, but they have the highest quality products, and you can find so many good things that you can't find at other stores. Like this snack mix today, I basically couldn't make it with healthy ingredients unless I found some of these things. So it's so helpful for making those healthy swaps, whether it's just like cinnamon sticks or some crushed tomatoes in a jar that I use for chili all the time in the fall. One specific thing which I was so excited to find were these healthier pretzels, because normally when you find pretzels at the grocery store, their ingredient list is literally scary. So the fact that I found these pretzels with an amazing ingredient list full of real foods just makes the snack so much more wholesome. So it's swaps like this that I always make for my family that makes such a difference in overall health. And Thrive Market has the highest industry standards. So the things that you find at the grocery store, you're always checking labels, right? And it takes the guesswork out because Thrive Market has done that for you. And not only that, but I can get all of our favorite things shipped right to my door. So it makes it that much more convenient. It also makes it really easy to make those healthy swaps that your kids will actually eat. So it's stuff they already love, but a much better version.
You can head to thrivemarket.com/healthyelizabeth60 to receive $20 off your first 3 orders and a free $60 gift.
So make your fall a little cleaner this year, stock up on all the good stuff, and I will show you exactly what you can do with all of them. I love a good salty snack, especially when you're just like hanging around the house and it's the colder months, so we're stuck inside a little bit more. I love having just a little kid-friendly snack on the countertop or having something that I can put in a little baggie and take it on the go with us. And this is a fun one because it's like all of their favorite snacks and mine too, and we put it all in here and season it. So it's like a very classic party mix, but we're gonna make it using all better quality ingredients and even a different seasoning. So I'm gonna show you how to do it. And it starts with some of these little organic wheat cereals. So normally you're going to use one that is either corn or rice. I like to avoid that, but it's just little organic wheat cereal. And this is going to kind of work as the base to this snack mix. So I'm going to use a mixture of that, and then I have the pretzels that I ordered from Thrive Market that have the way better ingredients. And then I love to have a little bit of nuts in here, but one of the things that I really enjoy are marcona almonds because they don't have the skin on them, and to me they just taste a little bit more buttery. And because they don't have the skin on them, I feel like all the seasonings kind of get into the nut even more, and so it's really delicious. But it also adds a good crunch and some protein and fat in there to keep you from eating the whole bowl of snack mix. And then we're gonna do a healthier little oat cereal. So I'm doing the 3 Wishes. I love this because not only is it gluten-free, but it has some protein and a lot less sugar, so just a much cleaner version. The ingredients are so simple. It's chickpea, tapioca, pea protein, some organic cane sugar, which is what I use at home. So this is gonna be a whole lot better. It's not always about cutting everything out. It's just about making a little bit healthier of choices. Now, there are 2 different options here, and you can either do a cheddar bunny cracker, which my kids love. That's one of their favorite snacks. You can also do these ones by Simple Mills, and they're kind of more like a Cheez-It. They're just like a crunchy cracker. So if you're doing it for a kid snack, I choose the cheddar bunnies. And then if you're doing it as a more sophisticated snack to have maybe after a football game or something, then I would choose the Pop-Ums just to dress it up a bit. So we're gonna start on the seasoning for this, and for that I like to use some salted butter, and I try to use really good quality butter for this because you're gonna taste it, and if you're gonna use half a stick of butter, it's good to make sure it's good quality, get some of those healthy fats. So I'm gonna take about half a stick of pasture-raised grass-fed butter, and I'm gonna go ahead and melt this. So I have my stick of melted butter, and now we're gonna add the seasoning. So for the typical party snack mix, you're gonna use a seasoned salt, but if you turn it around and take a look at the ingredient list on there, you're not gonna like it. So I like to use this one. It's organic and has cleaner ingredients. And I'm gonna use about 2.5 teaspoons of the seasoning salt, and you can triple it or double it. It's really easy to make into a big batch. Okay, and you can smell it already. Once that seasoning hits the butter, you just know it's gonna be so good. And then I like to do some garlic powder. That just gives everything that's going in really good flavor, including the nuts, which need a little bit of flavor. So this is the perfect avenue to kind of make them flavorful. So I like to do somewhere around half to 1 teaspoon of garlic powder. So today I'm gonna do 3/4 of a teaspoon. The last thing I like to add is my onion powder. And I'll just do about half a teaspoon of onion powder. That is gonna be the base and all the flavor that kind of coats the other cereals and crackers and all the things we're gonna put in it. It's super simple, but it is just a little bit healthier than usual because you've got a cleaner seasoning, and I'm using grass-fed butter, so there's some healthy fats in there. It smells good already. And what I like to do is, this is a little trick, but I love to take the almonds and I put them in there first so they have a chance to really get coated in that seasoning mix before we add in everything else. And I love these. They're super crunchy, and I have the kind that have a little bit of salt on them, so they already have just a smidge of flavor, but they're so tender and delicious. So we're gonna add that into the butter and seasonings. And I'm doing about 1/2 cup of marcona almonds. Stir that up, and you can see how beautiful it is already, and they're gonna just start absorbing that delicious butter. Okay, so now that my almonds are in there, I'm gonna go ahead and measure out all the other ingredients and add it into the same bowl and give it a toss. I'm gonna preheat my oven to 250 degrees because this bakes really nice and slow. We're actually gonna bake it for an hour though. It's almost just gonna kind of dry out the snack mix. So all this butter and everything is gonna be absorbed into the crackers and cereal. It'll be nice and toasty and delicious. I also forgot to add the Worcestershire, but you're supposed to add that into the butter, and I just do about 1 tablespoon. You can do a tiny bit more just to give it a little more flavor, but you want to make sure that it's not going to be too wet. Now we're going to mix this. You could even gift this around the holidays. I love handmade, homemade treats like that, and it's just fun and delicious. You could put it in a cute little baggie as a stocking stuffer, and it's just a really fun snack. And so simple, but it's just one of those things that reminds you of home and you never forget the flavor of. And I love this healthy version just as much as the real thing. It is so flavorful, if not even better than the actual real thing. So that's beautiful. Everything has been nicely coated, and you can see how there's a little bit of red from that seasoned salt. It smells amazing. And we'll just pour this whole mixture onto the baking sheet and get it into the oven. And once you start to smell it, usually after about 15 minutes or so, that's when I like to go in with a spatula, and I'll just kind of flip it and turn it. That way it roasts evenly, and you can do that 2 or 3 times while it's baking. So I'm starting on dinner tonight, which is gonna be so fun. This is one that you could get your kids in the kitchen for, at least just to watch if they don't want to actually cook it. But that's because we're cooking dinner using a pumpkin. So anytime it's fall, I love incorporating the flavors of the season, and obviously one of the big ones is pumpkin. And we do a lot of sweeter pumpkin recipes like pumpkin muffins and breads and that sort of thing, but I also love to use it in savory applications. So I have a organic mini pie pumpkin here, and we're gonna use this in tonight's dinner. So I'm making a bolognese, but it's gonna have pumpkin in it, and it's gonna simmer down and be this delicious sauce that you can put over some pasta, and it's just so cozy and comforting, but it's also a little bit healthier because we have a lot of pumpkin in it, which is a great veggie. So I'm gonna show you how to chop that up and get that into our sauce. But first I'm starting on cutting up some fennel, and this is gonna help flavor that sauce too and just give it amazing flavor that you don't normally find in just a jarred sauce. So to cut up my fennel, I'm gonna start by cutting the end off. And then all of these little green pieces are called the fronds. So I'm gonna trim those off too. And then if the outside is kind of bruised or there's a little bit of brown pieces on it, I just peel those off just like you would like with a cabbage or something. And then I'm gonna slice it straight in half because we want to be able to take out the core in it. So just like a little miniature cabbage, we're just gonna make a little V here and cut out that core of the fennel. And now I'm just gonna rub my knife through it and give it a slice, and I'm gonna put this back in the pot that I have on the stove, and I just have a big Dutch oven with a pound of ground beef in there, and we're gonna get that all browned up, then add in our fennel and our pumpkin. Okay, the fennel is all chopped, and now I'm gonna start on the pumpkin. There's really not a bad way to do it, but I like to cut off the end or the top, whichever you want to call it, and then I'll just put that cut side down and cut it right in half. That way we can scoop out all the seeds inside. And you can definitely save those if you want. You can just give them a rinse and then dry them off on a paper towel and roast them, put salt, pepper, different seasonings. Even some of the seasoning salt from earlier would be really great on it. So we'll just scoop these out. And I know it seems odd to cook with a pumpkin, but really it's so similar to butternut squash or acorn squash. It's really just like another vegetable. And these smaller ones are great to even grow yourself. So if you have a garden, pumpkins are actually really simple to grow, at least in my experience. I've been able to grow these small ones pretty easily. And not only could you make your own pie filling and make your own pies from it, but it's delicious just roasted up with a little bit of cinnamon sugar or put it in a savory sauce. I know dinners can start to feel all the same, especially with things like meat and pasta, but adding a seasonal ingredient like a fun pumpkin is just going to make everyone more excited to eat dinner. This is a great time to get your kids in the kitchen and show them that you're making dinner from a pumpkin, because what kid isn't going to want to eat that now? So I'm going to take my pumpkin here. I've washed it really well, cut the ends off, scooped all the seeds out, and now I'm leaving the skin on, which is why I like to buy it organic. And then I'm going to make long strips out of it first. Then I'll just rotate it and take my knife the other way, and we're just gonna dice it essentially. And they don't need to be perfect dices because we're gonna get them back into the pot and it's gonna simmer and cook away anyway. So you just wanna make sure it's a nice size to go in with the beef. You want a nice sharp knife for this one, guys. Okay, so I'm just using about 4 cups of pumpkin here. So depending on the size of your pumpkin, you may have a little chunk left over, but no worries. Just chop it up, put it in the fridge, and you can roast it for another meal. So I've got all my pumpkin and then all of that beautiful fennel, and I'm gonna add it straight into this bowl with the pumpkin, and we'll add this all into the ground beef.
Once that ground beef is nice and brown, I go ahead and add in my fennel and my butternut squash. I'll also add in my seasonings. So I go ahead and add some salt. I do some dried oregano, some sage, red pepper flakes. And while that is starting to cook down, I'll chop up some garlic. I like to do at least 4 cloves, depending on how big they are. You want lots of good flavor. And then you can add that in too and just mix that all up and let that squash start to get tender. And then I'll add in a couple tablespoons of tomato paste. And this is what makes this sauce so rich and tomatoey. So definitely don't skip out on the tomato paste. Then I'm gonna add in some beef broth. This is going to thin everything out and really help that squash to cook down. And I like to use bone broth here because it has just such a rich flavor. So you can use that or regular broth. So I'll add that in, scrape the fond or the brown bits off the bottom of the pan, and then I'll pour in a jar of crushed tomatoes. And we'll let that simmer away on the stove on medium low for about 20 to 30 minutes.
mix just came out of the oven and it smells incredible. You can like smell all the cheesiness, that savory kind of spiced smell from the seasoning. I am so excited to try this. Everything got nice and toasty. I think these are my favorite, the little wheat cereals. Oh, it is so crunchy, salty. This is like the perfect afternoon snack. Let's try a nut. They get all salty and extra crunchy from being roasted. Mmm. Oh my goodness, that buttery almond is so good. It's cooled down a little bit, so I'm gonna go ahead and pop it into a cute little serving bowl. I love to just put it in dishes like this and have it out on our counter, and the kids thoroughly enjoy this. It's so cute, and this makes a perfect appetizer or just a little snacking dish, or just cozying up on the couch with your kids like I will be doing. You have to try this. It's so good. I have the pumpkin bolognese boiling away on the back stove. It smells so good already, and I'm just gonna let it simmer away until that pumpkin has really started to break down into the sauce, and you can see that it's kind of just married into it. While that's simmering, I'm gonna go ahead and get some pasta boiling on the stove next to it. I wanted to talk about this kind of pasta that I'm using today, because a lot of times I'll use like a gluten-free pasta or a high-protein pasta, but sometimes you just want the real thing, and especially if you're serving people. I know this time of year, there's so many different get-togethers, and so sometimes you want to serve people just regular pasta, and this is some of my favorite. Love it because it's the bronze cut kind of pasta. That just basically means that the way that they cut it makes like a rougher texture on the pasta, and so not only does your sauce kind of stick to it more, but it has a better flavor and texture. I love all the bronze die cut pastas, and I know a couple videos ago I made pasta and I always drizzle oil in my pasta, but a lot of people were saying that if you skip the oil, the sauce sticks better to the noodles, and I thought, oh, well, that's interesting. And then I happened to stumble upon the reason I love this pasta so much, and that's because the sauce grips to it better. So if you want a good grip on your pasta noodles, then you need to try this out, because any sort of sauce, even if it's really thin, just like butter and lemon juice or olive oil, it is gonna stick in that pasta so well. So for this particular bolognese, I love a sauce that kind of scoops up the sauce, because it really is all about that sauce, right? So I have these, they're called orecchiette, I don't know how to say that correctly, but I'll show you some. So they are just these really cute little ear-shaped pasta that is essentially like a little bowl. So it's perfect for scooping up your sauce, and I love that kind of like the meat and the pumpkin get stuck in it. It's like your salads. That's why I love to cut my salads up with scissors. That way I can use a spoon and just eat it. So if you like spoon pasta, you're gonna love this shape.
Once the pasta sauce is done cooking, you'll actually be able to tell because it turns this beautiful kind of pumpkin-y color. Then I'll add in a couple tablespoons of brown sugar, just because canned tomatoes can be so acidic that to get the right flavor, you need a little bit of sweetness. So I'm gonna add in that brown sugar, and then I also like to grate in some fresh nutmeg. Just on my microplane, I'll just grate a little bit in, and it adds the perfect kind of just spiced note that you wouldn't get without that there, and it complements the cream so well. I'm gonna pour in just about a 1/4 cup of cream, and this just brings the whole sauce together. It makes it rich and creamy. Then I like to take my pasta straight from my pasta water into the bolognese. That way I have some of that pasta water just to make everything kind of thin out and help that sauce stick to the noodles. And I also sprinkle a tiny bit of Parmesan cheese straight onto the noodles before I toss it with the sauce. I also save some pasta water that way in case I need to add a little bit more, because I want that sauce to be the right consistency, and so just adding in that water really helps to just finish any kind of pasta dish.
The pasta bolognese is done, and it almost is like a pumpkin spice, but just the most savory, delicious version. I went ahead and added that pasta in the sauce so it could finish cooking in there, along with just a little bit of pasta water just to make sure that that sauce is velvety smooth. And I cannot wait to try this. This looks so good. And you see how the sauce just becomes one. That pumpkin really just disappears and you're only left with a few chunks here and there, but they are so tender and buttery that, oh, you just can't beat it. So serve it up. You can add a little bit of fresh basil or whatever you want on top, but I love just a little sprinkling of Parmesan cheese. You can add a little red pepper flake. Grab a spoon or a fork, and I cannot wait to try this. You can hear the sauce. If there is one fall pasta that you need to try, is this one. I want something that's going to be cozy but still really healthy and pretty simple to make, to put together on a weekday. So I want to show you one of my favorite sheet pan recipes right now, which are such a favorite of mine because you can just put everything on the baking sheet and get it into the oven and it's done. The only thing I'm going to do on the stove is make a little bit of rice, or actually I might do that in the Instant Pot. Then we're going to make a really delicious sauce that's going to go over it. So tonight I am making a sheet pan Korean meatballs with some roasted veggies on the side. And this has so much flavor, and it's a little bit different than what you would normally make, the way you season it and the sauces, but it is so good and perfect for those weeknights when you want something kind of takeout inspired. So first I'm gonna start with my Brussels sprouts because they're gonna take longer to cook. So I just rinsed them, and I'm just gonna take my knife and cut the end off of them, and then I'll either cut them in half or sometimes I'll even quarter them if they're pretty big. That way they'll cook even faster. So I think some of these bigger ones I'm gonna go ahead and quarter, but then the smaller ones like this I'll just cut in half. This time of year, I tend to like roasting a lot of different kinds of veggies in the oven, and I figure if I'm already roasting my veggies and my oven's already on, then I might as well make a protein that can go in there along with it, especially if they can be done around the same time. That makes it so much easier. So I'm gonna make some meatballs, and I like to use ground beef anytime I'm making meatballs, but with this recipe, you can definitely use ground chicken, ground turkey, so whatever you have on hand, whatever you prefer. What I like to do is I'll put the Brussels sprouts in the bowl first. And you could do this right on the sheet pan too if you'd rather do that, but I'm gonna use the bowl again in a minute, so I might as well go ahead and dirty it up. So I'm gonna add in my Brussels sprouts in here, and I'm gonna drizzle them with just a tiny bit of sesame oil. You just wanna do about half a tablespoon, so just a nice little light drizzle, because toasted sesame oil has a very strong flavor, so a little bit goes a long way. Think of it more like an extract. I'm gonna grab my baking sheet and a little bit of avocado oil, and now I'll go ahead and drizzle those with avocado oil. Salt and a few cracks of black pepper just to start giving it some good flavor. And then I'll go ahead and toss that, and I get this right onto the baking sheet. And the reason I like to do this first is because the Brussels sprouts are actually going to take the longest to cook. So I want to make sure they have plenty of time to get nice and caramelized and roasted. So now I'm going to put them on one half of the sheet pan and try to leave the other half kind of bare, because that's where we're going to put the meatballs. Spread those out so that they're nice and even, and then I'm gonna put them in the oven at 425 degrees, and I'm just gonna cook them for about 15 minutes, and then I'm gonna pull the sheet pan out and we'll get everything else on here and pop it back into the oven. Okay, so while that's baking in the oven, I'm gonna go ahead and take care of this acorn squash. And for the acorn squash, it's one of my favorites. It's kind of like delicata too, if you ever find those. I just like to take off the end, and I'll take off the little point here at the top too. Give yourself that base to set it on, and then cut it right in half. Then you'll see all those seeds inside. Grab a spoon and just scrape them out. It kind of looks like a cantaloupe. I love delicata squash and acorn squash. Both of those are really delicious. And what you can do is actually just leave the skin on. You don't even have to take it off. And just make sure that you scrub it down really well before you cook it. But it has so much flavor and texture to it. It becomes really tender and almost crispy, like a squash fry or something. And there's so much nutrition in the skin. So if you can leave it on, I would definitely do that. Now you could leave it like this and make nice big rounds, but I think I'm gonna cut this in half long ways first and then make slices this way. And you just want nice thin slices, probably about, I don't know, a half to a quarter of an inch. That way they roast up really well and get nice and tender. And if you cut them too big, they'll just kind of steam, and you want them to be nice and crispy. I'll do the same thing on the other one. During the fall, I love pairing some of my meals with things like squashes instead, because not only are they in season and usually really affordable, but they're also just like a lighter carb. So they're really healthy and filling, and they feel like a potato or something, but they're still so light because they're just a squash. So I love pairing this with a little bit of meat for a nice light dinner. But of course you could do rice too, and that's always delicious. You need something to sop up that good juice from the meatballs. So now I have my acorn squash in here. It's ready to go, and I'm gonna do the same thing that we did with the Brussels sprouts to the acorn squash. Just a light drizzle of sesame oil, avocado oil, a sprinkling of salt. So I'm gonna set this aside. That's ready to go into the oven as soon as those Brussels are ready to be pulled out. And I'm gonna start on the meatballs. So I have 1 pound of ground beef in here. You can use pretty lean ground beef, that way they cook up really nicely, or ground chicken and ground turkey, like I said. I have some sourdough breadcrumbs that I just pulsed in the food processor the other day. I like to grab some of my sourdough that's kind of crusty and just take that and pop that in the food processor, and it makes the best breadcrumbs. So I'm gonna add in about a 1/4 cup of breadcrumbs in here, just to help bind our meatballs together. And then to help those meatballs stay nice and moist, I've got a 1/4 cup of milk, and I'm just gonna pour that right over those breadcrumbs, and it's gonna start absorbing all of that liquid while we prep the other ingredients. Okay, so I have 3 beautiful scallions here, and we're gonna use some in the meatballs themselves, but then some I'm gonna save to garnish. So I like to go ahead and trim everything top and bottom, and then I will cut all the way up but leave the really dark green part for garnish. And I also like to cut them on a slight diagonal just to make them that much prettier. Okay, perfect. So I'm gonna take all the dark greens and just set them to the side. And then let's bring this over here, and we're gonna put all those green onions straight into. Okay, now on to those really delicious and warming Korean flavors. So for that, I've got fresh ginger, which I love this time of year because the fall sniffles are always going around. And so a great way to help avoid getting sick is by including lots of things like turmeric and ginger in your diet. And then of course some garlic, which is also same thing, super strong for your immune system and so flavorful. I'm gonna use a bunch of garlic. We're gonna use some in the meatballs, and then some we're gonna use in a delicious sauce that we're gonna make that is gonna be poured all over the meatballs. It's so good. Look at all that beautiful garlic. That is gonna make these so flavorful, but make you so healthy. Now I'm gonna take my spoon and just rub my spoon along the ginger. And I really like to use fresh ginger here because you're not gonna get the same healthy properties from it and the same flavor that fresh ginger has compared to powder. You just cannot beat it. And really, it's so economical too. So you can buy a big chunk like this and peel it up and just pop it in the freezer, and you'll have fresh ginger anytime you need it. So just scrape the skin off with your spoon. That's kind of the easiest way I find. And then I like to cut off that end, make it nice and clean. Okay, grab a zester or a microplane or a really fine grater, and we're gonna grate about 3 teaspoons worth of fresh ginger. Oh, it smells so good. It just melts into these meatballs and just flavors it so beautifully. So even if you don't like ginger, if you use just a small amount, it still just adds like a subtle warmth that you can't get from anything else. It's so yummy. And see, all of that is just right on the back of that microplane.
So now into the meatball mixture, I'm adding in the ginger, the garlic, a sprinkle of salt, which I usually do about 1 teaspoon, and then I'm gonna add about 1 tablespoon of my Korean chili sauce. And this doesn't make them overly spicy. I really like just the warmth that it brings and the flavor, but it's not gonna be way too hot. Then I'll just mix it, and I like to use a dough hook. It's kind of just like a hack. It makes it so much easier so you don't have to get in there with your hands. Then I'll pull those Brussels sprouts out of the oven, and I'll put those slices of acorn squash on there too. Then I'll use a medium-sized ice cream scoop and form all my meatballs. And I even give them a little spritz of avocado oil spray, but really that's optional. And then just make sure everything is as spread out on the sheet pan as it can be. And then I'll put it back into the oven. And that's when I like to make the sauce for it. This is so good. And if you want to have a bunch to put over rice as well, you can double the sauce recipe. I'm using tamari, or you can use coconut aminos. Just make sure that you're using a low sodium version. Then I added in maple syrup, some rice vinegar, some garlic and ginger again, and more of that Korean chili paste. And I'll bring it to a boil. Whisk together about a tablespoon of cornstarch and a tablespoon of water, and whisk that into the hot mixture to thicken it, and it turns this beautiful consistency that I then drizzle over the meatballs once they're done and broil for just a minute or two to turn everything into this beautiful glazed meatball dish, and then sprinkle it with a few scallions. And this is so good. I love how those meatballs become sticky, and that sauce is just so good over the veggies and the rice. You really cannot go wrong with this one.
Now is the perfect time to enjoy these kinds of recipes, and they are so good. If you're looking for any of the recipes, I'm gonna leave them down below in the description box, and you can find them there. Let me know if you make them. Don't forget to catch up on my other videos while you're here, and check out my link for Thrive Market down below so you can grab some of these cooking essentials. Thanks so much for joining me in the kitchen.